Ready? Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 6 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, May 17th, 2022, in Cafeteria B of Westfield High School, 550 Dorian Road, Westfield, New Jersey. The Board will move immediately into private session to discuss matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, including personnel and legal matters, harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents, and negotiations. The public portion of the meeting will resume at 7 p.m. The purpose of this meeting is to transact the regular business of the board and to transact any other business to come properly before the board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Thursday, May 12, 2022, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Tap into Westfield, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. Dana, can I have a roll call?
Sahar Aziz. Robinaccio.
Here.
Mike Beelan.
Here.
Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Layla Morelli.
Here.
Sonal Patel.
Here.
Amy Root. Kristen Sonic Smeltz.
Here.
Mary Wiggins.
Thank you. So, Sonal, can you lead us in the flag salute?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sonal. I ask the board to approve the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Education move into private session for the purposes of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, including negotiations, personnel, legal matters, harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents, and be it further resolved that any discussion that held by the board which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practical. Can I have a second? Thank you, Layla. All in favor? Aye. All right. We are in private session. All right, if everybody's ready, we'll get started again. All right, if everybody's ready, we'll get started up again. Thank you.
Recognition first?
Yeah, we'll recognition first. All right. At our board meetings throughout the year, we invite students and staff to attend to receive recognition for their many achievements. It's a decades-long tradition, and this spring is particularly busy with recognitions of winter and spring athletes, student musicians, drama award winners, recipients of academic honors, and special awards given to members of our deserving staff, to name a few. We're so glad that we're able to hold these special recognitions in person again. Not surprisingly, given that the list of achievements is always robust, we plan carefully to spread out the recognition across board meetings to allow ample time to congratulate each group and each individual. Tonight, we're pleased to welcome talented student vocalists and instrumentalists who, with the help and support of their dedicated instructors, worked hard to prepare for rigorous auditions and were selected to perform at regional and state levels. When your name is called, please come up to receive a certificate of achievement from Superintendent Dr. Raymond Gonzalez, and then proceed onto the stage to await for a photograph. I'll begin first with the Westfield High School Band and Orchestra. Patrick Gallagher, who plays the tuba, performed in the 2021-2022 All-State Symphonic Band, and with the Region 2 Wind Ensemble, where he placed second in region auditions. Nolan Daly is a trumpet player who performed with the Region 2 Symphonic Band. Viola player Kevin Chen performed with the 2021-2022 All-State Orchestra and the Region 2 Orchestra. Yin Jae Hu and Owen Wei, both violinists, performed with the Region 2 Orchestra as well. I now invite band directors Chris Vitale and Trevor Sindorf up to say a few words and to accept a certificate as well. Mr. Vitale was named to the 2022 40 Under 40, a music audition advocacy program launched by a music education advocacy program launched by Yamaha last year to recognize outstanding music educators who are making a difference by growing and strengthening their music programs. Orchestra director Craig Stanton could not join us tonight, but has written a few remarks that will be read by Mr. Vitale or Mr. Sindorf.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for recognizing these students. I just wanted to say how proud of these students we are in a year where it was very easy to choose not to do extra things because we're just getting back to school. I think it says a lot about their character that they chose to go above and beyond and put in a lot of extra work and have received this recognition. So we just want to tell them how proud of you guys we are, and thank you to the board and to the superintendent for recognizing these students today.
Thank you. I just want to state for the record that Chris Vitale turned 40 earlier this month, so he had to rescind his membership in the 40 Under 40 Club.
40 under 41 then.
Yeah, just in the nick of time. I have, as was mentioned, I have a statement from Mr. Stanton, the orchestra director. He says, I would like to congratulate Owen, Yenjae, and Kevin on all their accomplishments this year. Learning an instrument requires a tremendous amount of discipline and skill. To not only learn their instrument, but to excel in this manner should be celebrated. They prepared themselves for a rigorous audition process that involves similar hardworking students from across the region and the state. To be considered and accepted into such prestigious groups is a testament to their commitment and dedication. Congratulations.
Next up are the student vocalists in our choral department. Westfield High School, beginning with all state honors in alphabetical order. Again, please come up to receive your certificate of achievement and proceed to the stage for a photograph. Aprameo Chakraverty, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, who performed with the 2021-2022 All-State Mixed Chorus and with the Region 2 Mixed Chorus. Natalie Gonzalez performed with the All-State Treble Chorus. Evan Leone also performed with the All-State and Region 2 Mixed Choruses while placing first in region auditions. Sarah LaMonica performed with the 2021-2022 All-State Treble Chorus and with the Region 2 Mixed Chorus, placing fourth in region auditions. Skylar Lipkin performed with the All-State Mixed Chorus and will receive the 2022 Governor of New Jersey's Award in Arts Education on May 26th. Angelina Mora performed with the All-State Treble Chorus. Eden Wilcombs performed with the All-State and Region 2 Treble Choruses. Ryan Williamson performed with the All-State and Region 2 Mixed Choruses. The following students also performed with their Central Jersey Region 2 Mixed Choruses. Olivia Alpizar, Blake Barretts, Jolie Bruder, Jada Camerano, Kara Kogan, Parker Ebert, Sophie Havens, Natalie Horn, Bella Jarecki, Sam Laitman, Joshua Madera, who was also first in region auditions. Mason Marino, Olivia Marino, Naya Wozakowski, and Ethan Young. And performing the Central Jersey Region 2 Treble Chorus, Caitlin D'Alessandro, Rachel Clem, Kara Letzner, Catherine Miles, Madeline Pinchuk, Nadia Rego, and Allery Silverman, who performed third in region auditions. I now invite choral directors John Brzezowski and Maureen Francis to the podium to say a few words.
Thank you so much for recognizing these incredible, wonderful, beautiful children. We feel like they are our own children. Unprecedented year. 27 out of 30 auditioned for region. 30 auditioned, 27 got in. 11 auditioned for All-State, 8 got in. Next year, I'll be here anyway. Next year, to honor you, All-State, 24 out of 30 got in. So this is unprecedented. We'd have days where Mr. Brzezowski would be leading the class, and I take the kids out for private one-on-one with the audition rep, and then vice versa. He would work with them. I would lead the class. But I have to tell you the funniest story. So this is during mask time. We're all wearing masks. Nobody wants to sing in a mask. And one of my students says, Miss Francis, I just can't sing in a mask. I can't, how am I going to do this? I said, we're going to go outside. So we took a keyboard outside, got an extension cord, did it, warmed him up, sang his scales, he wasn't happy, we did him again, did the solo. Everything was going smooth. You know, he's very picky, and then I was picky. Anyway, get to the end of it, we're doing the solo, it's perfect, we're ready to submit, and a car drives by that badly needs a muffler replacement. So we had to do it again. Anyway, that's not the story ends. The story goes on that he got nominated for the Governor's Award, as well as Ryan Williamson. Ryan Williamson got #1 in the state. And that got swallowed in the announcement. Not only did Skylar Lipkind get nominated, he won the Governor's Award. So I am so proud of you. And for all of you, even if you didn't finish the top 10, what an accomplishment. We are so proud of the work you put in, the dedication, and the devotion to your craft. So you should be very, very proud. And we love you all.
And we're not done yet. I'll be inviting Ms. Francis back up in a moment to say a few words about the following students in grades 7 through 9 who recently performed at the 2022 Junior Honor Choir, sponsored by the American Choral Directors Association and the New Jersey Music Educators Association. But first, students, when I call your name in alphabetical order, please come forward to accept your certificate and move on to the stage. Josh Kaliz. Owen Ng. Joseph McKaylee. Kiran Patel. Devin Regas. Keaton Shepard. Hudson Wilcombs. And Chris Winters. Ms. Francis, would you like to say a few words about the Junior Honor Choir?
Just super proud of these young men. These are our middle school superstars, and they came every Monday, and we worked really hard, and we had a festival last weekend, and I'm just super duper proud of them. You have great things awaiting you at the high school. Congratulations.
We now have to move on to our talented intermediate musicians who performed with the Region 2 ensembles, beginning with the Region 2 Intermediate Band. When I call your name, please come up to the stage. Christian Bowone-Opain. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. For French horn, Liliana Lincoln for clarinet. Grace Matus, clarinet. Jacqueline Mohan, the French horn. AJ Bestinapilli, I'm sorry, trumpet. Benjamin Park, clarinet. Serena Shi, flute. Jonathan Eckert, clarinet and Region 2 wind ensemble. Alex Giangoni, tuba and Region 2 wind ensemble. Chase Willard, percussion and Region 2 symphonic band. And out of order, but Julian Duval, tenor saxophone. Our intermediate band directors, John Scazzaro from Edison and James Doyle from Roosevelt, are here with us. Please come up to also receive your certificate and say a few words.
Hello and thank you for having us. I want to say congratulations to all the students up here. It's an immense amount of hard work. Most people don't know that they start preparing for these auditions typically in about July or August for a January audition. So we're talking 6 months of daily practice that they're putting in every single day. So it's a testament to their hard work and their dedication to their craft, and we are super proud of seeing you guys up here.
Thank you again. I echo everything that Mr. Scazzaro just said, and I'm extremely proud of the hard work that Chase, Alex, and Jonathan put in to make it into this ensemble this year. Thank you.
And lastly, we have two intermediate student musicians who recently performed with the All-State Intermediate Orchestra, and three others performed with the Central Jersey Region 2 Intermediate Orchestra. Please come up when I call your name to accept a certificate and proceed to the stage. Violinists Madeline Young and Mai Kim performed with both the All-State and Region 2 Intermediate Orchestras. And Alex Fu, Lilia Duval, and Andrew Song performed with the Region 2 Intermediate Orchestra. I invite Edison Orchestra Director Amanda Grant up to tell us about these talented students.
Thank you all so much, board members, Superintendent Gonzalez. I could not be more proud of the 5 individuals standing on this stage right now, and I think I'm going to echo what all of the previous directors also stated, but also a huge thank you, and I hope you all thank them when you go home, to the parents for supporting your children through their musical journey, encouraging them to practice at home, even when maybe times were a little tough. And I'm just so proud of all of you. As Mr. Scazzaro said, this preparation begins very early, and to watch their dedication, especially during, after having not had region auditions for a couple of years now, I'm really proud of all of you. Also, I'd just like to point out that all 5 of these students were accepted into Region Orchestra, and Madeline and Mai were accepted into also All-State Orchestra. So that's a huge achievement. You should all be very, very proud.
Congratulations again to you all, and thank you for your commitment to music and music education. I'll pause for a moment while we continue, before we continue our board business. You're all welcome to stay. You obviously don't have to. We'll resume in a minute or two. All right, we'll start up here again with announcements. Mary, do you have an announcement tonight? Okay, Sonal? Leila? You have an announcement? All right, Mike? All right, then it's just me. The next Board of Education meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 14th, beginning at 6 p.m. here in Cafeteria B at Westfield High School. The board will move immediately into private session, and the public portion of the meeting will begin at 7 p.m. The meeting will be live streamed via the district YouTube channel, which viewers can access on the board tab on the district website. The complete agenda will be available on Friday, June 10th. At that meeting, we look forward to honoring the Optimist Award winners at the intermediate school level and the recipients of the 2022 Westfield High School Teacher and Staff Awards. And with that, I turn the meeting over to Dr. Gonzalez.
Sure. I don't have a formal presentation this evening, but I do want to just acknowledge that as we approach the middle of May, start of June, and we wind up this school year, we're all certainly looking forward to continuing the celebrations and recognition of our students' achievements over the past year, or as in the case of our seniors, over the past several years of their educational careers. We're all proud of their achievements and recognize the support of their parents and school community who help make it all possible. But I do want to just acknowledge how much more important it is to recognize the work that has taken place over the last several years in light of the pandemic. What was often a difficult road was further complicated. Nevertheless, our students persevered, our staff persevered, and as indicated by the achievements that we celebrate here at the board, it doesn't stop then from continuing to impress us and amaze us. I also wanted to use the opportunity to just provide a quick update. Since last week, we have received updated guidance from the New Jersey Department of Education with regards to the civics education mandate that had been recently introduced to the State Department of Education through Wooten's Law, which basically required, among other things, civics instruction to be included in grades 6, 7, and 8. And in doing so, provided preliminary wording that suggested that to meet that requirement, we needed to have a course of study that would cover 2 quarters. And as a result, as many may recall, in order to comply with that, the district had made adjustments to our offerings at the intermediate level, to our cycle electives in grades 6 and 7. Resulting in the elimination of one of our extra art classes in that cycle. Well, I'm pleased to say that the State Department of Education provided a clarification that confirmed that the instruction does not need to be scheduled as a separate standalone civics class. Therefore, plans to reduce the extra art class in our quarterly cycles is no longer necessary. As we will be now integrating the curricular requirements into our 8th grade offering, and thus be able to retain our original intermediate level visual arts staff that we have this year into next year. So I just wanted to make sure that the public was aware. I know the board was aware, and we've made sure that the staff impacted were aware as well. But we certainly wanted to provide the update as it really was hot off the press in the last 6 or 7 days. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. I now turn to the board for committee reports. Rob, do you have a SIP report for us tonight for Amy?
Sure. There's one action item on the agenda for the curriculum committee. This would be discussed during public comment 1 if you have any questions or comments about that, and that's to approve 2 student teacher intern candidates for the 2022-2023 school year. One would be at the high school and one at the elementary school. Our next curriculum committee meeting will be this Friday, the 20th. 2 things on the agenda for that. One is the presentation of the revisions to the health curriculum. That'll be the committee's first opportunity to review the proposed document, although we had been kept apprised of the task force that's working on it, on their progress throughout the year. But this will be the first time we see specifics. That will be presented to the public at our next board meeting, which I believe is June 14th for a first reading. We'll also have a presentation from the district's Department of Special Services regarding the support they provide to our students throughout the district. We'll hear about that level of support as well as the process they go through in evaluating requests for services. So that's the report. We'll have something with more substance next meeting.
Thank you, Rob. Mike, do you have a facilities report for us?
Yes. The Facilities Committee met on May 12th and covered a number of topics. First topic we covered was the summer projects, which during the summer while the kids are out, The school is certainly not idle, and a lot of our custodian and maintenance groups are working on a variety of projects, and then other projects that we've approved. So there'll be everything from we're finishing gym floors to painting, sealing, plumbing repairs, concrete repairs, HVAC maintenance, and other activities just to get our schools in top shape for September. Hold on, I'm just there. Okay. And then secondly, we discussed the PTO. The Tamaqua PTO is going to be submitting a donation for a proposed clock tower on the front lawn of Tamaqua. We saw a drawing of it. It's approximately 10 feet tall, so it's going to just be another landmark location that students can gather and see the clock. That's probably going to be done within the summer, Dana? They're going to put that in? Yeah, so they'll do that as part of the summer projects through a donation, which we greatly thank the PTO for doing that. And finally, as you know, the Edison School field renovation has been a constant item of discussion. There are numerous discussions going on in the background, but there's no action being taken at this time. Doesn't mean there will be in the future, but when we do take action, you'll certainly see it on the agenda, and there'll be plenty of notice for doing that. We are looking into all the various options that are available. We've heard everyone's comments. You know, do we keep everything at Edison? Do we move it across other schools? And we'll have meetings with town leadership before any decisions are made. Any comments before we close out? Rob?
Yeah, I know we've had a very strong contingent of folks from Edison coming here and speaking about the various concerns about that project, and I want to thank you for coming out here and doing that. I want to assure you those have been heard. And when I think about this project together with just the overall position we are in with budget and the rest, and look at the numbers we're talking about and the work that we're talking about, I know we have discussions to be had, but at this point I want to just put a couple of thoughts out there of things that have been discussed with me, and certainly what my thought process is on this so far. We are putting a lot of effort into a single field. We have a lot of fields that need a lot of work. We need to make a lot of adjustments for how we budget for things. And I think one of the things that I would like to see, and certainly the next time we meet with our town officials, and I think folks ought to know where I'm going to, what I'm going to say to them, is that we really need to start thinking a little bit bigger than a single field and a project. We need to look a little closer at what it is that we're doing. And I'd certainly like to see those funds, and frankly, perhaps more of them, because if you remember, this was a bigger budget project than it is right now. I'd like to see those spread across a group of fields. I'd like to see the need for lighting and turf reevaluated. I'd like to see that money go toward a different cooperative arrangement with the town. Our school board's fields and our town fields are used jointly from all of our students. I'd like to see an overall coordination of that. I think there's places our money's going to be better spent, and I just want to let folks know that that's kind of where I'm going with this. That I'd like to see something broader, a timeline in which a number of fields are renovated, and I think we can use all that money in a partnership with the town in a way that really helps our budgeting process. I mean, we're talking about things like moving elections and other ways to go about it. Well, this is a good way to use funds that will come from a pilot program to do things that are truly joint and work together. I mean, our rec commission talks about how we schedule our fields. Well, I think we have a real opportunity here to take a huge step for what we can do with our fields and address the concerns that have been brought very consistently to the town council in here. So, I've been kind of waiting for this and seeing where the time is coming, but when we next have this discussion, I want folks to know where I'm going to go with it. And I think we can do a lot of very, very good things with this as a foundation and grow into something that can really be something Westfield's proud of. So I just wanted to share those thoughts.
Sure, and just one follow-up comment based on Rob's comments. Just to reiterate, we have heard all the various comments. Everyone has suggested there is a meeting scheduled with representatives from the Board of Education, the town. I believe it's May 25th, where we are going to meet and discuss it, and we're taking your messages forward to make sure that we're doing something that benefits all of the community, and we try to take into account, we can't make everybody happy, we're going to try the best our can to make sure we come up with a viable solution. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And Sonal, do you have a finance report for us tonight.
Sure. The Finance Committee met earlier tonight, right before this meeting, and our first topic was the health benefits. I'd like to thank Brown & Brown and Ms. Sullivan's office for their tireless efforts to recommend Aetna and Delta Dental, where we anticipate savings for the next school year. The next topic we talked about was we reviewed 3 policies to just keep in line with Strauss Esme updates. So those will be on for first reading on next meeting on June 14th. And then we also did some just minor changes to 3 additional policies in keeping with updating our policies.
All right, thank you, Sonal. Just to touch on Sonal's mentioned about policies coming out of finance, with the policy audit that we started at the beginning of the school year and the recommendations that came down, we've done a divide and conquer approach, assigning policies to their relevant subcommittees to have the most efficient use of board member and administrative time, as well as be able to go through well over 100 policy recommended changes by the end of the school year. So I thank everybody for their work on all of that. Now moving on to policies. On the agenda tonight, you'll see 14 policies for first reading and 12 for second reading. The list is attached to the agenda. I won't bother reading it all off right now. But the policy committee met on the 9th, where we put most of the policies up for review tonight. We also talked about a student grievance policy, which is not yet ready, but will be ready for June 14th. It outlines the formal process that students already have under policy if they have a grievance, whether it be starting from the teacher level on up through the administration, and the process is afforded to them under that. We then started talking about the superintendent's evaluation, which with 6 new board members that have not yet gone through this process, it's helpful to start spelling it out early. Over the next couple of weeks, Dr. Gonzalez will send us all his self-evaluation, and then we will, as a board, evaluate him. I'll ask you to submit your comments and scores on the various metrics to me. I will compile it all together. We'll then meet as a board without administration, which we don't usually have an executive session where it's just the board, but we will, where we come up with a composite narrative for Dr. Gonzalez and his performance over his first year with the district. I'll then sit down with Dr. Gonzalez and go over his evaluation with him. His high points, any areas of improvement. Don't think there are many, but that's just my opinion. And that all has to be done before June 30th. So June gets busy for us. We also have to do a board self-evaluation in there somewhere. Sorry, I just scrolled ahead. We discussed putting together a committee handbook and a board handbook and revising what we have for best practices. We're specifically looking at our board committee structures. We're going to recommend that our final committee structure look something similar to what I'm about to read off. We have a curriculum instruction and program committee, a finance and facilities committee that's combining finance and facilities together. Really, there's nothing facilities does that doesn't intimately involve finance. We can't build anything, we can't do anything without it costing money, and it all runs out of Dana's office anyway. So combining those 2 committees does make sense from both a board operational standpoint and a district resource standpoint. Policy, personnel, and governance. A long-range planning committee, which will be ad hoc, but will be made up of the chairs of the standing board committees. To ensure that all committees are coordinating with their efforts on various district initiatives. A negotiations committee that will meet as necessary, and a communications and legislative committee that will take on more of an advocacy role, whether it be either keeping in tune with pending legislation coming from the state or drafting resolutions for us to pass asking the state to do something different, whether it's financing, the school funding formula, curriculum standards, whatever we as a board decide is important that the state knows about will come through that committee. We'll also ensure that as we approach any budget or any voter-involved issues, that our narrative is set and we're working together, so they're all saying roughly the same thing. That bylaw, the committee structure is a bylaw and will come up on the June 14th agenda. We discussed a district communication plan. Most of that is administrative in function, but a plan can be put together. It won't rise to the level of policy, but a coordination plan, particularly if we're moving towards a budget that's voted on by the public. We need to make sure that everybody's on message. And just an update as to where we are with our Strauss Esme CUSAC audit. We've reviewed and revised 108 policies so far since January. We are in the process of a comprehensive overhaul of all board bylaws. We are streamlining the policy development process by distributing the policies to the committees that directly are impacted by them. Not everything is handled by policy as a first or last touch. In the past, if a policy went to finance, it then went back to policies, where we then looked at their edits and maybe made some changes or just rubber stamped it. There's no need for it to come back to a different board committee if one committee has already reviewed it. And so far this year, SIP has reviewed 21 policies, Finance and Facilities have reviewed 25, and the Policy Committee has reviewed 62 of those under the audit. We have a new online management system for our policies. It's linked through schoolboard.net, and when we move to a new board agenda delivery platform as part of the new district website, it will be directly linked there. But the new policy management system is linked up online already. No longer do you have to scroll through pages and pages of PDF to find what you're looking for, and you can do text word searches that actually bring you to where you need to go. Then the next day, on June 10th, we had our code of conduct review. This is mandated by law that we have every year, where we meet with various stakeholders. This year was 4 students, a handful of teachers, administrators, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, some parents from at least the elementary, middle, and high school level, as well as Deacon Gibbons from Holy Trinity Church. He was representing the Interfaith Coalition in Westfield. We reviewed our student code of conduct and the penalties attached for various infractions. This is required by law that we review it every year. And there are some decently substantial changes that will be recommended for the June 14th agenda as well. And our next policy meeting is on June 6th. And I'm tired of hearing myself talk. There are no other updates from me on any of the other committees. So with that, I'm going to open public comment. During this portion of the meeting, district residents and staff are invited to address the Board of Education on agenda action items only. The board requests that individuals state their name and address for the record and the specific items they're commenting on, and asks that all remarks be directed to the board president or designee, not to individual members or staff. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding personnel matters are discouraged and cannot be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey, and the board bears no responsibility nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. If a matter concerning a district staff member is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal, the superintendent of schools, or the Board of Education, either by telephone, letter, or email. Although the board may not respond to items raised during this public forum, all public comments will be considered. Please note that if any member of the public becomes disruptive during the meeting, the board president may terminate the participant statement. Continued disruptions may result in removal from the meeting or adjournment of the meeting, and each speaker's statement will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes in duration. If you'd like to speak, please come to the podium now.
Kyle George, Short Hills Court. I'm going to speak about personnel agenda item number 5, appointment, which talks about the appointment of the following certificated staff for the 2022-2023 school year. I'll also comment on policy 3282, use of social networking sites, and policy 3283, electronic communications, which you're voting on for second reading tonight. As you said, one of the teachers being appointed tonight, in other words, hired, is one of the teachers that was terminated as part of the recent layoffs. Will this be the only rehire, or are you planning on reconsidering any other personnel moves? There were 2 civics teachers voted on previously, and you have now restored 1 position. Will there be another? Speaking of civics, I noticed that Dr. Pinero was on the Laura Wooten's Law, aka the Civics Mandate Middle School Curriculum team at Rutgers Center for Civic Education. Did this at all play into the decision to fire existing teachers to make way for 2 new civics teachers, which you now say are not required, and you're rehiring one teacher tonight? And how did you not already know this given the district's close relationship to the state mandate? On a separate topic, Policy 3282 sets a policy for the use of social networking sites. This policy only applies to staff. Clearly, you need a stronger policy for BOE members too. And have you given any consideration to regulating, say, BOE members' use of Twitter? Furthermore, Policy 3283 is on the agenda tonight. This is about electronic communications between teaching staff members and students. I think this should be extended to BOE members as well. Even though BOE members are covered by their overarching ethics obligations, there should be explicit prohibitions on things like forwarding emails to personal addresses and defaming genuinely concerned constituents, hypothetically speaking, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. George. Does any other member of the public wish to address us on agenda items tonight? Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Lori McCormick, 917 Chase Place. I was made aware that you said that you received new information from the state about the civics positions and that you did not need to make additional courses for that. But I will tell you that that is not true. The legislation has not changed. So there was a mistake on our side. And whether that mistake is from our assistant superintendent, head of curriculum, I'm not sure, obviously. I'm not aware of that. But this needs to not happen. And I bring this up especially because I did email the board about this. I emailed Dr. Gonzalez, I emailed Mr. Galligan, and I emailed Dr. Pinero, and no one got back to me. That was 2 weeks ago. I emailed again to follow up. Nobody got back to me. This is not a good precedent to send about communication, and especially when we have a curriculum like this health one that we've been trying to talk to you about, and you're saying you're going to be transparent. You can't even communicate on email. Not good leadership. And the next thing I want to point out is that when you had the list of RIFs that you guys were going to be making, and I appreciate Dr. Gonzalez, you making eye contact with me because not a lot of the board members are at this moment. I appreciate that. As far as the RIFs go, there were 2 positions, and I noticed that on the rehires, one of the art positions is being reinstated, one of the teachers at Edison, I believe it's Edison Intermediate School. My son's elementary school, Tamaulipas, does not have a music teacher still, and you had droves of people who came out here to show their support for that individual. If we are no longer having these 2 civics positions that we need, where is the other one going? I know that we're hiring an assistant for our business administrator for $135,000, but we have an elementary school in Westfield, New Jersey that does not have its own music teacher. Where is this other position going? Where's the money going? That's my question. I would like it answered. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other member of the public wish to address us on agenda items tonight? All right. Seeing no one, this public comment session is now closed. Dr. Gonzalez, would you like to address any of the comments?
Sure. I do want to clarify. So the reference to the two art positions that were originally part of the reductions referenced in the past several weeks and months associated with our budget presentation, those two art positions were directly connected to the original wording of the law, which has been represented this evening, has not changed. So the original law did specify that a course of study needed to be put in place for the middle school, which is the reason why the district had made that determination. So at that time, in order to allow for that additional course, we needed to remove the extra section in the 6th and 7th grade cycle electives offered at the intermediate level. With those positions, we did approve a job description, but we did not hire anyone. So no one has been filled, and that had always been represented as a budget neutral sort of position, because by eliminating two art teachers and replacing them with two civics teachers, our net effect would have been no additional staff as a result of that. By virtue of the Department of Education recently releasing guidance, so there was an additional update released by the Department of Education in addition to the law that was earlier signed. The May 11th Department of Education memo actually specifically clarified and specified that an additional course was not necessary. So that clarification gave us the ability to then alter our original path and revert back to our original staffing model. So hence the reason why we were able to return staff to their original positions. If there are any positions that are unfilled due to retirements or resignations, those would be filled as we normally would. And just want to clarify, even though it's not on the agenda, but it was brought up, although we don't have the individual named yet, the music teaching position still remains at Tamaqua. So we do have positions for music instruction at all of our elementary schools. Those assignments will be finalized in the coming weeks. And if there's any changes or transfers, that would then be approved or voted on by the Board of Education. And then the school principals would certainly communicate with their communities accordingly. And that concludes my responses.
Just touch quickly on the policies that Mr. George raised. Our policies are structured in a way that 0,000 series are our bylaws, 1,000 applies to administrators, and so on. The 3,000 series are our teaching staff members, and the policies that he raised do apply only to teaching staff because that's the structure of our policy manual. When we finalize our bylaw revisions, there may be updates to social media guidelines if the committee so recommends them. As to Mr. McCormick's email, I did receive your email. That got buried under 300 emails we received that week 2 weeks ago. I apologize for not responding. I did see your email last night, and I will be responding to you this evening when we get out of here. So I do apologize for not getting back to you sooner, but you'll get a full response. And with that, any other questions or comments from board members on policy, on public comment? All right. I ask the board to approve the May 3rd, 2022 board meeting minutes and the May 3rd, 2022 executive session minutes. Can I have a second? Thank you, Sonal. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Mike, did you raise your hand? You're opposed?
No, I was looking at the next. Agree.
All right. Thank you. I ask the board now to approve governance item number 1. This is to approve the superintendent's decision on HIB incident 22E14 and 22MC04 for the reasons set forth therein. Can I have a second? Second. Thank you, Layla. Dana?
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Layla Morelli. Yes. Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmeltz,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Yes.
Thank you. And I'll ask the board to approve personnel items 1 through 19 as attached to the agenda. Can I have a second? Thank you, Mike. Any questions or comments? All right, Dana?
Robinaccio,
Yes.
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Leila Morelli. Yes. Sonal Patel.
Yes.
Kristen Sonic Schmeltz. Yes. Mary Wickens.
Yes.
Kristen?
I ask the board to approve item number 1 on the SIP agenda to.
Oh,
approve-
no.
no.
I got ahead of myself.
I thought so.
I'm very sorry
I
about
didn't think it
that.
was my turn. Thought it was
Sonal?
last.
Okay, I ask the board to approve,
1 through 19.
oh yeah, okay, finance and facilities, items 1 through, I don't know, 19? 19. Can I have a second?
Second. Who seconded? I'm sorry. Leila. Any questions?
Nope, but let's call out donations. I'll just take it. In item 17, we have a donation of $48,958.50 from the Tamacos Elementary PTO to regrade the front lawn of the school and to install a clock tower in the front of the school. We saw, as Mike mentioned during his facilities report, we've seen renderings of the project. It's going to be a nice addition to the front of the school. Not sure exactly where the clock is going, but it looks nice, and it'll help beautify the whole project will beautify the front of the school. So we do thank the Tamacos PTO for stepping up and helping us with something that is not in our budget in the foreseeable future. Just want to make sure we don't miss any other. I don't believe there are any other donations on here.
There's not.
Okay, thank you. So with that,
Robinaccio,
Yes.
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
yes.
Leila Morelli. Yes. Sonal Patel.
Yes.
Kristen Sonic Schmeltz.
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Yes.
Thank you, Sonal. Ask the board to approve policy item number 1. Can I have a second? Thank you, Mary. This is to approve for first reading 14 policies. Bylaw 0145, board member resignation and removal. Bylaw 0152, board officers. Policy 5519, dating violence at school. 5533, student smoking in school buildings. 5535, passive alcohol breath sensor devices. 5612 in the regulations, assault on district board of education members and employees. 5750, equal educational opportunity. 8210, school year. 8220, school day. 8330, student records. 8420, emergency crisis situations, and the regulations attached for fire drills, or fire and fire drills. 9210, parent organizations, and 9713, recruitment by special interest groups. Almost all of these are mandatory policies as part of our policy audit. The one that's not is the school year. Traditionally, we've approved the calendar as part of either a policy item or under governance since December. And now it'll be something that we vote on every year as part of policy as a regulation attached to the policy. Are there any questions on those policies? All right, Dana?
Robinaccio,
Yes.
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Leila Morelli.
Yes.
Sonal Patel.
Yes.
Kristen Sonic Schmeltz.
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Yes.
Thank you. And I ask the board to approve policy item number 2. Can I have a second? Thank you, Leila. This is to approve for second reading 12 policies that we approved at our last meeting. I'm not going to read them all off. Any questions or comments? All right. Dana?
Robinaccio,
Yes.
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Leila Morelli. Sonal Patel.
Yes.
Kristen Sonic Schmeltz.
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Yes.
And now, Kristen.
I ask the board to approve item number 1 on the SIP agenda. Can I have a second? Great. And this is to approve 1 student teacher at the high school and 1 at Franklin. Any questions?
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Leila Morelli,
Yes.
Sona Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic Schmelz,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Yes.
Thank you, Kristen. And I ask the board to note the notice for the record. Any unfinished business? I think we need to continue our conversation from last week about the board, moving the board budget election and board member elections to April. We had a long conversation at our last board meeting, really priming the conversation that's going to happen over the next several board meetings. So with that, I did a lot of talking last time, so now I want to hear from you guys as to what your thoughts are. Can you talk into the microphone? I am sorry. I thought it was being picked up. At our last board meeting, we started a conversation about moving the board elections from November to April. This is for board member elections, as well as allowing the public to vote on the budget publicly for the first time since 2012. Actually, 2011 was the last budget that this town got to vote on. I did a bulk of the talking last time, so I'd like to hear from board members tonight what their thoughts are on the pros and cons and personal feelings and all that.
I had a question about it.
Yes, Mary.
And maybe Dana can answer this, actually. So if we stay under the 2% for an election, even if we have one in April, we wouldn't have to put it to a vote?
No, if you move to April, it would have to be voted on every year.
Even if it's under the cap?
Correct.
Even if we reduced the budget from its current year, if it was a negative increase,
okay.
we'd still have to go to the public.
Okay.
It's the trade-off that the state gave us when they were trying to push all elections to November.
Right.
So you don't have to go to the public at all if you keep it under 2%.
Okay.
Because of the budget issues we've seen this year and are forecasted for over the next coming years. That's not a sustainable path for the district at this point.
Well, I mean, I understand that, and I mean, my personal opinion is I feel like we need to have that option, given the state of affairs right now, to move it to April. I mean, just looking at next year's numbers, we're already hurting for that.
They still can't.
My mic, you can't hear? Can you hear me now?
Move it closer, Mary.
Everybody, you got to move the microphones a little bit closer.
Closer.
These are more sensitive mics than our old ones, but that means you have to talk directly into it.
Okay. Sorry, I was just stating my opinion that I thought, is that better? Thank you, Lundbergs. That the April vote might be something necessary at this point, given the budget we even have coming up next year is already at a deficit, you know, even with projections. And how can we fill that gap? And we don't want to go through having cuts again. It's not something any of us want to have to deal with or, you know, have to do to the kids or to the community.
Yep, so just to re-answer your question, because I'm not sure if everybody heard it, once we make the move to April, everything happens in April, regardless of the percentage that we're requesting from the taxpayers, whether it's 2%, 4%, 0, or negative 5%. The public would get to vote on the budget every year going forward.
I just have a follow-up question, and I know we talked about this last time, but in theory, could we move to having elections in April to get us through, you know, to get our baseline a little bit higher and to get us through the next couple of budgets, and then go back to the cap once it's been raised? Is that something we're considering, or we want to just make the change and stick to the change for the foreseeable future?
So state law is very clear. When we moved from April to November, we had to commit to at least 4 years to a November election.
Right.
It's silent on going back to April.
Right.
So we can do, as other districts have done, go to April for a year or two and then pass another resolution and go back to November if we feel that that's the best move for the district.
So it's not set in stone, it's something that can be fluid.
There is pending legislation,
right.
though, that could possibly change
Right.
that.
Yeah.
I guess, just to echo what Mary says, at this point, I'm in support of moving to the April election and having the vote out to the public, because, you know, we had this huge turnout. I think that it is important that the community has a voice in the budget, and we're operating at a bare minimum here. There are lots of positions, lots of things that this district needs, you know, facilities, staffing, et cetera. And if we are really just, you know, living paycheck to paycheck, we're never going to get these enhancements that we're so looking for. So I'd like to see some of that open up, and I'd be in support of the April.
Mm-hmm. Rob?
Sure. Just to reiterate a couple of other things. You know, the 2% cap is largely problematic when you see the increase in costs that face every district. General cost of living increases that you see in regular businesses are usually 3%. We don't even get that much. And we see exponential increases to our insurance, to our transportation costs, to special services costs. And, you know, as I mentioned last time, every time someone at the state legislature gets a bright idea for a new course, a new curriculum, a new standard, a new anything, it costs us as local districts money to implement it and money to keep it going. And that, in addition to the 2% cap, is also unsustainable. And I've spoken with some parents and some individuals who are on the legislative end of these things, and they very much agree. And that's why one of the things I was happy to hear among the committee structure updates was something we've talked about, certainly something I've talked about, which is getting a more active role by the board in speaking out on legislation. You know, I forget whom, but I know at the last board meeting somebody said, well, what consultant do we hire for that? Well, we're the consultants for that. That's our job. We got elected to do the things that we need to do to make sure the district's well run, but also to advocate for the district and for the people who we hire to run the district. We cannot keep burdening our administrators and our teachers with unfunded mandates and with caps that don't reflect reality. We cannot keep burdening our district, our staff, our teachers, and our taxpayers with caps that don't reflect reality, with waivers that don't apply to us because we're Westfield. I don't really want to hear one more time that Westfield is a wealthy district. It doesn't matter. That doesn't mean we're made of money. We're not a sponge that you keep squeezing. So while I certainly keep my mind open to an April election, and I think that may be something necessary, I just want to make sure we keep in mind that I think that should be part of a process. I'd certainly like to see, and I know I've looked at it, and I know Brendan and Dr. Gonzalez, and I know Dana has also looked into what other districts have done who already have these April elections. I'd like to see how it's going for them. I certainly want our legal counsel to weigh in on how this works. And I'd expect that when we're ready to present something, it's going to be something comprehensive. That's going to have all those things taken into account. That will have a call to action, not just for a change in an election, but also for, and again, I know this is longer term, right? These things don't happen overnight, and there's nothing the state government likes more than inertia, right? So at some point, I guess a mid-range item would be that. And I also do not want to forget what I mentioned sort of in connection with Mike's report, which is there are ways locally that we can handle some things that are maybe one-time expenses or partnerships. The town's town has a pilot program that we want to take $9 billion out to build a single field. It's not an efficient use of $9 million, right? And certainly not the way it's designed. And I know there's, I won't get into all those concerns that I think may not be necessary, frankly, if we look at this as something more comprehensive. Got to think bigger. Right, we can't spend $9 million on one field when all 7, 8, 9 of them need work. And when you fix 7, 8, 9 of them, maybe you don't need lights for evenings. Maybe you spread traffic and services around to the entire district. But we've got pockets of it. I don't want to get too caught up in that, but we have pockets of money. There is a significant amount of money in this pilot and potentially in future ones that we should sure be advocating for. Because the way those things are structured, they change the tax structure. They change the base that we're trying to grow. I just want to make sure that as we do this, we're looking at all options. So yes, let's absolutely give us the chance to be flexible and put a budget vote to the public. But yes, let's also make sure that we're taking on an advocacy role, and it looks like we're already going down that path. So I thank you guys for that. And let's also talk about about the things that are in front of us. It's got to be comprehensive. That's my 2 cents.
I can speak to at least several of the districts that have made the move to April and their motivations. Several of them, Clifton being the most recent, have done a temporary switch to April for a year or two and then moved back. They raised their base and then they went back to a November election. Whether that was motivated by the percentage that their budgets were passed at, which was 52 to 48, they might not have thought that that was a sustainable path going forward. Other districts have chosen to do so for political reasons. Whatever their reasons were, be it issues in town or the town council not wanting everybody to be on the same ballot together. Neither here nor there. Their budgets were fine, but they needed to make a switch for political reasons. Several districts have been forced to move to an April election by either a petition from their taxpayers or their town council unilaterally made the decision and moved them. Some of those have wound up in court decisions. Half of them wound up in court decisions. We're in a spot where we can control our own destiny right now. And nobody's forcing us, be it the public or the town council. So it's really on us whether we choose to go down this path or not and what our motivations are. I think it's pretty clear our motivations are fiscal, but there are always other considerations that we may have. Yes, Emma?
Yeah, I think everybody presented, some good ideas, Rob, and some things we do need to think about to make this comprehensive. But I also fully support going to an April budget. I think we saw with the turnout with the parents, and we all see what is the potential of what will happen next year if we continue with this 2% cap without a budget vote. That would allow us more funding. So I think it's pretty clear to me that would be the route we would have to take at this point.
Yep. I mean, assuming we make the switch to April, we have to be very careful and strategic about what we ask for, how long we phase in any increases. I can speak for myself, but probably many in the public. I don't think there's support for 8% increase. Not that that's anything close to what we're recommending. We're not recommending that. But a couple of years of 3% might be much more palatable and sustainable. Any thoughts?
Brendan? Yes. On the mention about the variable increases, before I go on, I want to ask a question just for the benefit of the residents as well. Is there a reason why in the November election, we understand the 2% cap, but why we can't have the voters vote to go above the 2% cap in November?
We can, for very specific targeted things. It can't be a general increase. It has to be for a specific program that we offer. But we can't use that money because of the way our budget cycle works and the school year. If the voters vote on something in November, it's certified in December. We can't use that money really effectively that school year because we're not going to hire staff hoping that the money's there. We're not going to place them on the schedule hoping the money's there. So really, it's not going to be there for the following school year. And if it's voted down, we can't reallocate from other accounts to fund that program anyway. It can't be used for anything mandated by state law. So special ed costs, civics education, pick your program that the state's told us we have to run. We can't put any of that to the voters. So it would have to only be purely elective things.
Sure.
In some towns, it's been athletic programs, expanding or maintaining their programs. In others, it's been expanding the arts. It's always an expansion. It's never really been a sustaining because you have to not offer it before you can send it to the voters. And we can't ask for it in advance. Like we can't say in the fall, we can't go to the voters and say, would we like to continue offering athletics in the following school year? It's for the current budget cycle, even though the money wouldn't really be available until at least January or effectively until the following school year. It's the same issue we ran into when we were talking about full day kindergarten. How do we staff it? and the complicated multi-vote process that would have had to go to the voters.
Sure, just some general comments. Obviously, we saw it very visibly from the residents that were here a couple weeks ago at the meeting about how they want to make sure we keep our teachers and keep our programs, and not just keep them, but also continue to grow them. And a couple residents reached out to me privately, and they were in favor of moving to an April election if that can allow us to continue to do that. But with the concern that we want to make sure that we don't, in a sense, use it as an ongoing piggy bank where we're looking at 5% or 6% increases continually, but just giving us the flexibility to grow as needed, and taking into account just the senior residents or those on a fixed income that we're considering them, and ensuring that, like as Rob had mentioned, not everyone is necessarily wealthy within this district, and we want to make sure that we're sharing it fairly, but we just take everyone's into account when we're considering this.
Yep. Almost all of us are on fixed incomes, whether we're retired or not. We get a salary. It doesn't change much from year to year. There might be bonuses here or there, but it's the term fixed income doesn't just apply to seniors and retired people.
I think it's hard for anybody to see their taxes raised, but
Oh,
in this
absolutely.
town, but you
Yeah.
know, it's for, so I agree, Mike, you got to keep it, responsible.
Yeah, and I get a salary as a fixed income, but not everybody's Tom Brady, and it's just we have to just be cognizant of those residents who, while we were in a very strong economy, there are always, at any time, people that are just struggling. And when you look at your tax bill and you open it up and you just put it back in the envelope and okay, let's go on to next year. So just making sure we're thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're considering any increases, and what I explained was, even though we propose an increase of 3, 4, 5%, this does put the power, in a sense, back into the voters' hands. Right now, we're just limiting ourselves to just the 2%, and the public doesn't have as much say. What would then happen is, if a 4% increase was proposed and we need to scale it back a bit, it would have to go to the town council and work with the town council to go and scale back so we can get it to an acceptable measure that the voters can, that acknowledge what the voters are saying. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mike. Yes.
So just so everybody's aware, a lot of numbers were called out: 3%, 4%, 5, 6, and 8. So just so everybody's aware, those are not at all any percentages we've come up with or thought about, but just using for purposes of what could happen, so that everybody understands that this, when a budget would be presented with an increase, it would be a thoughtful process, and these numbers were just used for examples.
Yes. Any budget that we have to sell to the public, which is what will have to happen, we go into salesman mode and have to sell the public on every dollar we're asking for. So if there's a large increase, we have to be able to justify it, and not just for ourselves so that we can pass the budget and send it on to the county, but we have to sell it to the 20,000 plus voters in Westfield. Why we need it, why it's the right move, why they should approve it. In the past, those elections, April elections, have been lower turnout, but with changes to state law, everybody that wants one gets an absentee ballot automatically sent to their house. So we don't know the dynamics of the electorate for school elections going forward. We could have huge turnout. We don't know. So we will have groundwork that we have to do. It will unfortunately occupy a lot of our time, a lot of the administration's time, a lot of district time. Crafting the budget mindfully, and then selling it, building the PR campaign to justify it. But yes, all the numbers that we threw out are purely hypothetical, so we have something to talk about instead of, I'm a numbers person, so numbers are easier for me to talk about than.
And Brendan, for timeline, even if we were to say, put a resolution forward in this school year, let's just say, that's not the budget. That's just, hey, we're going to move to this budget, and then we'd still have plenty of opportunity to go through the process and the time to do all the legwork to figure out what percentage increase.
Absolutely.
Would be
So
reasonable.
by the timelines in statute, we have until, I believe, the second week in January to decide if we're actually going to do this for next April. I anticipate us making the decision long before then. because it will obviously impact how the budget is crafted. We can't ask you to build us a budget and then say, oh yeah, now you can make it bigger, or now we can go to the voters. This process really has to be wrapped up ideally by the end of the school year or September at the latest. I don't see any reason to delay it, but we need to do it thoughtfully. We need to make sure that we're all on board. This is a big change for us, and yeah. So by January, a final decision has to be made. It will be made long before then, so the public can be aware of it. And then we start the process of selling to the public. When it comes to board member terms and all that, we're still waiting final legal guidance, or final guidance from our board attorney as to what that looks like and who's impacted and how the transition from November to April occurs. Statute doesn't help us. There is pending legislation on that, but it hasn't advanced out of committee yet. It hasn't even had a committee hearing, so I don't think that's going to impact us for this next year. At some point, they're going to have to put an effective date on it, and if we act before then it's sort of on us to figure it out.
Brendan, I know eventually they have to be coordinated, but it was my understanding from the last meeting that we could have the April budget vote and not have to move elections immediately. Is that correct?
No.
No. I thought we could. I thought we were doing like November election.
The election for the budget will take place, assuming we approve it before January, will take place in April. Board member
budget, but I'm talking about for
board member elections, depending on when it's approved and what the guidance is from our attorneys, will impact when board member elections are converted over.
Right.
There's no clear definition as to what we're supposed to do, and the couple cases that have made it to Superior Court have taken different approaches. So we are sort of flying blind, but we do have attorneys that have been involved in this in multiple districts. And we're doing every bit of due diligence we can ahead of time to make sure that we're doing it right. So we're not ready to say what happens to board member terms.
Right. So just to clarify, if in June we put a resolution in to move to an April budget vote, that does not mean that we have to make the decision on what's going to happen with Board of Education terms.
They're linked.
They are linked.
They're explicitly linked in statute. At some point, there's a practicality. If people have already submitted their petitions to run, we're not going to pull the rug out of a November election.
Got it. Okay.
Likewise, if we made the move in December when the November elections already happened, then there is a lag. There's a lag time because nobody's term can be shortened, at least under current statute. So who's impacted and when really comes down to what the attorneys will tell us.
And just for the record, I echo everyone else's opinions. I am for the April budget at this point because of our financial situation.
Any other questions from board members?
Just one other comment, Brendan, just from a communication standpoint. We noted about obviously a lot of people that show up to the board meetings and the parents should be aware of it, but we just have to make sure we have a strong communications plan that goes, as I mentioned earlier, the seniors and the people that don't have people within the schools so that they're aware of what's going on and why we're doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's far more than just the PTO newsletters that need to be notified. There are various senior groups, professional groups in town, neighborhood associations, whichever groups we can identify. We got to get the message out and start selling it once we make the decision to move.
Yeah, there's the Lifelong Westfield group, and I think it's also working with the public information officer of the town to make sure that it's spread out to all residents.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, this is something the district has done before, for 140 years before we moved to November elections. So there is a framework to follow. It's obviously different now, but the framework is, the details are different, but the framework is still the same. So it's something I think we're more than capable of handling, and this town has shown itself over decades to be a consistent supporter of education in this town. Our kids go to your kids go to school here. I went to school here. our property values are all based off of the quality of the school system. It's nobody likes seeing their taxes increase, but if they're increased for a good reason, I think we'll be okay. I think the town will support it ultimately. All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? Dr. Gonzalez, anything to add?
No, other than, I think the communication of this decision as being contemplated by the board would certainly be something we'd be prepared to do, both, at a public board meeting as well as using the, the various communication vehicles to make sure that the public is even aware of this decision, as it does impact the entire Westfield community. So once we have a clear confirmation of answers to all of these outstanding questions, we'll be prepared to put together a presentation, put together a letter and a communication to make sure all of that is out in the public well in advance of any board action. So we're prepared for that.
Yep. As I spelled out when we started this conversation at our last meeting, this is going to consume at least 4 board meetings, the conversation, before we take any formal board action. We don't want anybody to be blindsided by our decision. All right. So with that, any other unfinished business tonight? Any new business? Any liaison reports? All right. I just have one. The NJSBA has named their new executive director. Dr. Larry Feinsad is retiring after 12 years in his current position. He was also the superintendent in Cranford for many years before he took that position. The new executive director is going to be Dr. Tim Purnell. He was the superintendent in Somerville up until 2018 and has been interim and consulting superintendent since. So we look forward to working with him in the future. And congratulations to Dr. Feinsad on his years with the district. He's looking forward to traveling with his wife, and congratulations to Tim Purnell. I look forward to working with him. And if there are no other liaison reports, we'll reopen public comment. During this portion of the meeting, members of the public are invited to address the Board of Education on any topic. The board requests that individuals state their name and address for the record and asks that all remarks be directed to the board president or designate, not to individual board members or staff. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding personnel matters are discouraged and cannot be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey, and the board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. If a matter concerning a district staff member is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal, the superintendent of schools, or the Board of Education, either by telephone, letter, or email. Although the board may not respond to items raised during this public forum, all public comments will be considered. Please note that if any member of the public becomes disruptive during the meeting, the board president may terminate the participant statement. Continued disruptions may result in removal from the meeting or adjournment of the meeting, and each speaker's statement will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes in duration. If you'd like to address the board, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Christine Binder, 404 West Dudley Avenue. Thank you for your time tonight. Brendan, I think I should address this to you since you're the board president. I just wanted to agree with what Mrs. McCormick said, that I know I've sent 3 emails since January. I've never received a reply except for one generic reply. I think I know myself maybe wouldn't even come to as many of these if I just received a reply, maybe answering some of my questions. That being said, I just would like some transparency, if this is possible, about the sex ed curriculum. I thank Dr. Panero for being transparent with showing us the presentations, and I just want to know if some of these videos are going to be shown, if lesson plans will be given in advance for parents to decide to opt out of. And when we say opt out, I use that term loosely, I think, because I do believe that some of this could be woven into other subject areas. I know that some of the DEI curriculum has the gender and sex ed issues that I think maybe some parents are more comfortable having certain conversations with their children, especially these, some of these videos and topics were very age inappropriate. So I don't know, I know I see you're typing. I don't know if you're hearing what I'm saying. I don't know. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. So I don't know. I don't know if you can answer these questions now or if this is something you can follow up with me in an email. I just want to know what this looks like for, us moving forward in the fall. Or actually it's coming up soon. Will we be given the plans just to decide if we want our children to be a part of that? Or when we say opt out, will some of these topics be woven into other curriculum subject areas? Have we made a decision on that, or?
Yeah, we'll address all this at the end of public comment, but it will be
Okay.
addressed.
I think that was really it. Okay, thank you.
Is it? Oh, there's my. Jerome Fader, 789 Knollwood Terrace in Westfield. I'm a 40-year resident. Both my kids went to Edison. And I was going to speak to the proposal to add artificial turf and lights. I know you're deliberating the issue, and I welcome the view of broadening the discussion to additional projects and proposals in other fields. I guess in that vein, I hope my comments are still, since they're focused on Edison, hope they're still helpful and relevant. I feel that the proposal to add turf and lights doesn't make sense. It makes the field more dangerous and wastes money, particularly important in the view of some of the current concerns. I live just behind the Edison rear fence, and I watch what goes on. The field is reserved for educational use until 6, but it's used beyond. All this hullabaloo is really for a few hours in the evening of outside, non-educational field use. Just view a typical Edison day. Morning and after 2 p.m., the field is crossed by students attending school. Midday, there's lunch recreation, lots of kids running around, playing catch, frisbee, informal games. After 3, marching, band practice, cheerleaders, football team exercises. I've seen as many as 6 independent activities in parts of the field. Baseball is recently prominent. I see kids in uniform, umpires from 3, and this usually goes to 3 and from 3 until after 6. The field is well used, and there's not much room for much additional use. Are we planning to kick the baseball users off the field? And then the question is why? Existing users are not clamoring for $9 million of field changes. An artificial turf will make the field hotter for everyone, for lunch, recreation, and for all users, most of whom are not seeking artificial turf. The handout shows the proposed eastern field portion. There's a baseball diamond, which is what exists now. Much of the field is earth, not grass. It's unclear how artificial turf would even work in that situation. The proposal relates to additional fields, but you can't play baseball on the additional fields at the same. You can't play additional fields simultaneous. So except for evening, there is not much added field capacity. The proposal adds light poles, and those are the large black dots around the periphery. These hard obstacles pose danger. During lunch, we have kids running around the field, looking into the air and not looking where they're going. Kids could get hurt badly. I see a pole in the center field of baseball. At the lower right, there's a stadium light 20 feet from the bedroom window of an adjacent house. Economics. Over? Okay. Well, inclusion, I believe that the the turf and lights make the field more dangerous, it's expensive, and spends money that could be better directed to students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Eaton, 762 Knollwood Terrace. I continue to look back to July 2021 when we first found out about the Edison Field project plan. Over 10 months later, much research has been done and both time and money have been spent by residents in the neighborhoods reviewing the plan, identifying safety, health, financial, noise, traffic, parking, and quality of life issues, with alternative solutions being recommended. As of today, the only change that I'm aware of to have taken place with respect to the Edison Field plan is a reduction in artificial turf from 400,000 square feet to 250,000 square feet. Tower lights are still a part of the plan, and significant parking traffic issues have yet to be addressed. We still have the 250,000 square feet of artificial turf with all its attendant health risks to children and nearby neighborhoods. This is unacceptable. The materials in artificial turf have been linked to cancer, nervous system disorders, cardiovascular, and other health-related issues. This is not what we want for our students. This plan, in its current state, will ruin our neighborhoods and create significant health, safety, traffic, and noise concerns for students, athletes, and residents permanently. Residents will have to deal with these issues permanently as long as they live in Westfield near the school. Some of us are retired and others are still working. We would rather spend our time doing other things, but this effort to push back on this Edison plan is too important. Grass fields with no lights can be the solution if we work together. There are multiple locations which can increase field capacity with no need for games at night. The Edison Field plan is overly intrusive, unsafe, and needs to be revamped significantly. Lots of data have been presented to the Town Council, Board of Education, Board of Health, and Recreation Commission, supporting the health and safety issues being raised, impacting students and residents. It's time to decide that artificial turf and tower lights are not a viable solution. We can become proud of our athletic fields by establishing more locations already identified.
30 seconds.
With natural grass, improved field maintenance, and no lights. We need to hire a professional field manager to maintain our natural grass fields. In closing, even if I lived in a different neighborhood, I would not want the Edison Field plan to be implemented. It's just not right for Westfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eaton.
Good evening. Bill Hedden, 811 Knollwood Terrace. I think that most of us agree that there is a need for better athletic fields and more capacity here in Westfield. But I think that many of us, maybe most, don't agree with the Edison plan and the synthetic field for all the health reasons, environmental reasons, costs, and the rest that have been stated. Each artificial turf type contains different chemical hazards and also many chemicals likely to be hazardous which have not been tested. Crumb rubber used as infill materials contain hazardous and carcinogenic materials including heavy metals such as zinc, cadmium, chromium, and lead. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, volatile and semi-volatile organic compounds, additives such as amines, adipates, and phthalates. Artificial turf blades contain per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, and these compounds accumulate in the body and can cause liver and thyroid damage and may be carcinogenic. The artificial turf may also contain hazardous flame retardants and water and stain repellent compounds. I was reading one of the largest Chinese manufacturers, and they clearly state that those are in all of them and in greater or worse amounts, depending on whether you have a more expensive or a cheaper one, but they all have them to one degree or another. Some of them are more pure, better, less hazardous than others, but they've got them. Data does not include synergistic effects. Chemicals can sometimes act together to cause cancer, even when low-level exposures to individual chemicals might not be cancer-causing. This is particularly relevant for artificial turf, which has many hazardous chemicals. Health data only includes exposure via inhalation, ingestion, and dermal exposure, not the simultaneous accumulative effects which would actually occur from playing on artificial turf. Investigations are in progress to try and close those data gaps. However, contrary to Synthetic Turf Council claims, there is no conclusive evidence that artificial turf is safe. There just isn't any hard evidence. In fact, there is an increasing amount of evidence that artificial turf will likely pose health hazards. A 2019 McGill University health study showed that the toxic leachate from crumb rubber impairs the early development of chicken, notably the brain and cardiovascular system. Other studies showed significant outgassing of toxins from artificial turf, which further increased the exposure to health hazards.
Thank you. Please finish your sentence.
Oh, is that the?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
I wish that the members of the Board of Education would follow the lead of the association and ban the use of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kyle George, Short Hills Court. You keep citing parent turnout as a justification for moving to April. You fired their favorite teachers. They weren't turning out. They were turning out for that, not to give you an April mandate. Can't you just file for a special one-time referendum instead of using this nuclear option of moving putting the budget into the town vote and ultimately into the town council's hands if it gets voted down? Moving the BOE election to April and budget approval to town vote will inevitably cede BOE authority to the town council. File for a special one-time increase if you need to in order to balance the budget shortfalls, but don't turn over your authority to a hyper-partisan town council. If the budget gets turned over to the town council because it's voted down by the public in April, won't they alone be able to make decisions that are financial in nature for the district? Speaking of financial, we're spending millions of dollars on IT upgrades this year and next year. Why haven't we received a presentation about where this money is going? I know a thing or two in this area, and that's a lot of money to be spending on a regular basis. New topic. It's May 17th. Where's the comprehensive health, aka CHPE curriculum? Where's the DEI curriculum? When are we getting a presentation on these major changes coming for next year? Moreover, where's the delineation between state-mandated CHPE and state-mandated DEI? Remember, the state mandates are broad and leave much up to each individual district, as the state has recently said with all the controversy that made national news. If you read the actual mandates, they are nonspecific. There's clear overlap and ambiguity between the DEI and CHPE mandates on the topics of gender, identity, and sexual orientation. Where is the line? This is extremely important because as parents, we have a legal right from the state to opt our children out of certain parts of comprehensive health. So we need to know how you're going to handle the parts of CHPE and DEI that overlap. And when teaching the CHP curriculum, what resources and what materials are going to be used? Are you going to be playing amaze.org videos, using Advocates for Youth, or using Rutgers Answer resources for K through 5? Rutgers Answer backs amaze.org and Advocates for Youth. The last update we received from the district was from Dr. Pinero earlier this year and contained links to Advocates for Youth containing very explicit materials for kids as young as kindergarten. All of these are promoted by the state as resources for districts and teachers through the Rutgers Answers link. When are the district standards on material use and prohibition, especially for K through 5? Where are they? Have you set standards or restrictions? Are you trying to make it every individual teacher's problem? Please don't leave teachers in the lurch by making them invent their own curriculum. Nothing has come before this BOE for a vote or public information and that provides the public answers. It's May 17th. There are only a few BOE meetings remaining. Please tell me you aren't going to drop this curriculum in the last meeting of the year and walk away for the summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. George.
Good evening. I'm Jan Onishi. I live at 759 Knollwood Terrace. Tonight I'd like to talk to you about your budget and your Edison Field project and the letter of intent that will be signed at some point. You are considering finalizing a letter with the town that would give the town the use of the fields for 30 years at $1 a year. First, this discussion seems unreasonable, or these ideas seems unreasonable in terms of your budget discussions that you're having. A lot can happen in 30 years. It's hard to predict whether you might need that land behind Edison for your educational programs at Westfield. For example, what happens if pre-K is mandated? In the next 30 years, it wouldn't surprise me to see mandates take place to have pre-K in all New Jersey towns. We know that pre-K is beneficial for children's learning. Where would you locate such a program? Could the space behind Edison be useful? Another example, what happens if money becomes even tighter and you need to seriously consider Ms. Aziz's suggestion that the district build on their expertise in special education and offer tuition-based programs for children outside of the district? This idea seems like a win-win to me. The problem is, where would you house the children for this program? The space behind Edison could be another useful place for educational programs. The second issue to consider is the rental fee. Renting the use of the fields behind Edison for $1 a year seems ridiculous to me. There's no land in New Jersey worth $1 a year. If this land is to be rented, I think it should be rented at a fair market value. You need the money. The town officials have told us that you don't need funding from the pilot development programs because the residential developments that are being planned are not going to increase the school base, the school population base. I never hear the town talking about the fact that the Board of Ed operational expenses are increasing beyond inflation. Again, you need money. Firing teachers this year was a wake-up call. You can't maintain an excellent school system if you're going to fire teachers every year, and I'm so glad to hear that you are making plans for making alternative budget decisions. There seems to be a disconnect between your budget needs and the needs of the town. And you need to speak up and tell the public in a more proactive manner what your budget constraints are. Westfield's reputation as a district with a well-rounded educational curriculum and experiences is something we all support. And I thank you so much for your service, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Onishi.
Good evening. My name is Maria Tadaro. I live at 758 Knollwood Terrace. I actually don't have a speak, but I have a couple of notes here I wanted to bring up. First, I also wrote letters. The last one I wrote, there were 14 people. Every member of the town council, all of you, the superintendent, Edison principal, and unfortunately I didn't get any response either. And I did get an automated response from the Department of Recreation, but it was automated. So I'm not understanding why that happened, but I wanted to make that point only because I heard someone else say the same thing. The other thing is I regularly walk as part of an exercise routine past the Edison Field. And today, yesterday, at times in the past, today especially, I took some photos actually. There were kids all over that field, not just where the exit is, where the cafeteria is, but throughout the entire field. And they were doing all sorts of things, playing Frisbee. There were a bunch of girls right by where the bridge is. They were using chalk to do beautiful chalk drawings. And all I could think of every time I walk that and I see these kids is, how are they going to do this when there's turf? How are they going to be out there? And they shouldn't even be on turf that much because of all the toxic things, which I've spent literally, I must have spent 200 hours reading on that. Another point I want to make is, the other thing I'm thinking about is, who are we going to listen to when making this decision? Are we going to listen to the consultants whose vendors or the are the contractors whose main vendors are the turf industry? Or are we going to listen to people like the Children's Environmental Health Center at the ICANN School of Medicine at Mount Sinai? I gave you this letter the last time I spoke. These people are the experts. The experts are not the consultants, not the people that are selling turf. Those are not the experts. We need unbiased people talking to us, people who are epidemiologists and who are pediatricians and who are scientists and who have studied this and who have produced letters, reports saying this stuff is no good. If you're interested, I actually have another one. And all it takes is a few minutes on Google. Okay, this one
30 seconds.
is from the National Center for Health Research in Washington, D.C. This one lists all the injuries related to artificial turf: knee injuries, ankle injuries, concussions, heat-related illnesses and injury, abrasions. And what they're saying is not only do we have to worry about the toxic, cancerous elements, but we also have to worry about a higher risk of injuries, top to bottom. And that's why the Soccer Association, I don't watch soccer, professional soccer, my husband does, and he tells me they don't even want to play on artificial turf, and neither do the football
Thank
players.
you.
There's a reason for that. Would anyone like a copy of this report?
Yep.
Hi, Anthony Scaglione, 543 Washington Street. So, in the beginning of this meeting, you mentioned that there are talks going on in the background with about the Edison Field project. And that's disconcerting to me because it should be up front and center. And then you came and you gave us some ideas on what you're thinking about the process, and that was refreshing to hear that. What I don't understand is you guys just had a great conversation about moving the election to April and the pros and cons and ideas and concerns. That's the kind of discussion that's needed on this Edison Field project. Is it possible for the Board of Ed to convene a special meeting to have a discussion on this? So instead of us talking to you, and now I got to rush because I know I only got 3 minutes, and I know I'm not going to finish, that we could have a conversation, we could talk about some of these issues, we could talk about stuff that we've found and get your ideas on them and what you think and what your concerns are, whether they're pro or con, so we can understand where you are and we can have a more in-depth conversation about the issues that we're concerned about. You know, at one time, asbestos was a miracle material. Didn't turn out that way. DDT was the best pest control. Boy, that didn't work out. Cigarettes were perfect for everyone. That didn't work out too well. And turpentine was great for washing paint off your hands. That didn't turn out too well either. So like the person before me said, which consultants, which experts are we going to listen to? A white paper from the Concussion Legacy Foundation. Significant compaction can occur, further decrease in impact attenuation in areas of the field that are more frequently used. Decreased impact attenuation could increase the amount of force transferred to an athlete's head, potentially increasing the risk of sustaining a concussion. It is recommended that turf be evaluated for firmness every year, and there are standards on what they're supposed to meet, and they should comply to those rules. Do you know if your personnel are doing that on a yearly basis or biannual basis or twice a year basis? You should know that. I don't know whether you know it or not. Hopefully you'll talk about that after this is over. Artificial surfaces should receive the same attention and scrutiny as football helmets. Despite 1 in 5 high school sports concussions being caused by surface impacts and 1 in 4 concussions in youth soccer and football, that's a big thing. Knee injuries. The study looked at rates of 5 different knee injuries. Posterior cruciate ligament, PCL tears occur almost 3 times as often on turf as on grass. Athletes playing at lower levels experience anterior cruciate ligament ACL tears 1.6 times more. See, I guess you want me to stop, right?
I'll let you finish your thought.
Thanks. So ACL tears are 1.6 times more often on turf than on grass. Another one was ankle injuries. Ankle sprains was the most common injury and occurred at a rate 1.5 injuries per 1,000 hours on turf compared to 0.8 on 1,000 hours of natural grass. That's twice as much. An example of a 90-degree day, the surface temperature of the grass field was 98 degrees, but the artificial turf got up to 166 degrees, putting athletes at higher risk of heat-related illness or injuries such as dehydration, heat stroke, and thermal burns. These are the kind of conversations we want to have with you, and I know you're listening, but I don't know, when I hear things are happening in the background, it's just not right. We need to have this discussion. We need to be able to say something like this and get your opinions and what you're thinking about these things. And if you could convene a special meeting, I think that would be great for the public, whether it's pro or con. But this discussion needs to be had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scoglione.
Can you stand a little closer? Hello again. My name is Jean Lemberg. I live at 528 Grove Street. If you've attended a sporting event or perhaps a graduation ceremony at Kaler Stadium, you may have noticed that from a distance, artificial turf looks nearly identical to the natural grass in the surrounding area. While the artificial turf and natural grass may appear to be the same thing, nothing could be further from the truth. The artificial turf athletic field consists of many layers, most of which are hidden beneath the surface. The green part that looks like grass is actually a plastic carpet, something on the order of this one. It is a petrochemical product formed from crude oil or natural gas, which was sent to a refinery, went through a polymerization process, and eventually became the pre-production pellets or nurdles that are in this jar. Artificial turf manufacturers purchase nurdles. The nurdles are melted, green dye and other chemicals are added to the hot liquid, which is extruded to form spools of yarn. The yarn is woven into a plastic carpet, which becomes the top layer of the artificial turf athletic field. It is important to note that while any colored dye could be added to the liquid plastic, green is deliberately chosen to send the subliminal message that it is real grass, not plastic. Unlike artificial turf, which was first used as a sports surface less than 60 years ago, natural grass has been in existence for millions of years and covers vast areas of landmass throughout the world. There are many types of natural grasses, but those that have been cultivated for lawns and athletic fields are long-lived or perennial ground cover. Natural grass is grown from seeds, not plastic pellets. You can see grass seeds forming on the ends of these grass stalks. This part here. If you can see them, they sort of look feathery. Another difference is that plastic carpets wear out in 8 to 10 years and end up in a landfill, while natural grass is regenerative, meaning it grows stronger and fuller over time. Artificial turf becomes hot, creating heat islands, is a form of plastic pollution, and it contributes to the climate change crisis by adding carbon dioxide, methane, and other greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. In contrast, natural grass cools the air, filters pollutants, and acts as a carbon sink, sequestering carbon dioxide in its root mass and soil. Organically maintained natural grass develops a very long root system, as you can see here, and sustains life. I hope that you will tell Mayor Brindle that natural grass is the safest playing surface for children and our planet, and that you will not allow new artificial turf fields to replace natural grass at EIS or any other school. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Lindberg, and her prop guy. Thanks, Greg, for being prop guy.
I'm prop guy would like a turn at the mic too, is that all right?
Absolutely.
Okay, Greg Lindberg, also 528 Grove Street. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to some of the commentary earlier about some of the maybe broader thinking that's going into the Edison Field project. Certainly something that I've been advocating for a while. I just want to tell a quick story because I know there's a lot of skepticism in town when it comes to the viability of grass athletic fields. And we've tried to educate and talk and have somebody give a presentation about it. But I have a very close to home example. Our yard, 528 Grove Street, anybody wants to come take a look, was a disaster for as long as we've lived in it. Last year, we decided to organically maintain it for the first time ever. And this spring, I wish I had before and after pictures. This spring, the yard is nearly weed-free. The grass is thick and healthy and growing. And that's being done by by an outside maintenance company, but it's all organic. We don't want any chemicals or anything like that on our property, except for one little strip along our driveway. And I couldn't figure out what was going on with this piece of grass. And then I realized that one of our younger drivers in the house sometimes will park the car and drive along the edge of the driveway onto the grass. So we have our own example living in person of soil compaction, the number one enemy of grass and athletic fields. So this little strip here, the grass was stunted, it wasn't growing. I've cut the lawn 5 times this year, and every part of the thing, every time I cut it, I'm cutting off a couple inches of grass except for this little strip. So now I'm starting my own little experiment. I've started to manually aerate that section of the lawn to see if aeration, which is the solution for soil compaction on athletic fields, will actually do the trick. I only started this past week. We'll see how it goes. But this is just a way to illustrate that proper maintenance is one of the keys, and expertise is another key. So putting those two things together and putting, admittedly, the right amount of funding, because it is going to be a little bit more expensive on an annual basis each year, not considering the initial $9 million and then $3 or $4 million every 8 to 10 years that they're going to have to spend to replace the carpet. So I know that the WSA is putting in some money onto Elm Street. I hope that they are using some level of expertise. There's opportunities. Dr. Bradley Park at Rutgers would be happy to come and evaluate the field for a very nominal amount of money, do soil testing, et cetera. So I hope that the Elm Street experiment is a successful one and that we can build on that success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindberg.
Hi again. Lorraine McCormick, 917 Tice Place. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the discussion as far as moving the elections and pushing the budget to April. My concern with pushing the budget to April is that if the budget doesn't pass, it's going to go to the town, to the mayor, and then they're going to have discretion over the monies for the school and where our taxes are going to be. And I just, between that and then also this discussion about the turf fields, and with the turf fields, we have one pilot program right now going into place, which is hurting us financially. That money from that pilot program is going directly to the town, so the taxes coming, what the pilot program is paying, instead of now going in that area that it's taken up, instead of going to the schools, the money's going to the town, and the town is now able to take that money and determine, okay, this is what the school needs, this is what we are going to decide to give them. So what I'm getting at here, and I might not be doing a great job explaining it because it's kind of complicated, but we're giving the town and the mayor too much potential power over our school system and our children's needs. And that's not a good thing. We need to keep it here. We need to figure it out here, which brings me to my next point. I feel like trying to raise the amount of money and this 2% cap, and we're missing the mark. We should be looking at closer at how we're spending the money. And the last time I spoke, I talked about a lot of ways that just from an outsider's perspective and seeing how we're spending some of this with all the consultants that are being hired, with these teacher in-services where you're bringing in speakers, give the teachers time to work instead on their curriculum. It costs less money. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can cut back, and I think we need to figure that out first before we start asking for the town to pass a budget that's going to cost them more money. You know, that is a public relations nightmare. I used to work in PR before I became a teacher, and I am a social studies 8th grade teacher, by the way. That's why I know about this curriculum stuff. I just want to say that. But anyway, that's a nightmare. It's going to be hard, and we need to deal with what's going on right now. The next thing I want to say, and I'm running out of time, I realize, but it's about the music position. No, I know there will still be music at Tamaqua School, but you're going to be pulling another person, and you said this the last time, another teacher to go teach there. That instruction that those kids are going to get now at Tamaqua is not going to be nearly as good as what they have right now. And you are going to be expending a person, putting more on a teacher to try to deliver the same product. And it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. So I understand that they'll still get music. It's not going to be the same, and that's not okay. So please figure it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCormick. All right. Seeing no other members of the public coming to the podium, public comment is now closed. Any questions or comments from board members? Or, well, Dr. Gonzalez, would you like to address anything first?
No, I just wanted to quickly highlight that at the next board meeting on June 15th, Dr. Panero will be presenting an overview of the comprehensive health and PE curriculum, taking into account feedback that we've received from parents and members of the community, both at the podium and certainly via email, to try and give as much information regarding the lessons, resources, and opt-out details that would help a parent to be able to make informed decisions and be aware of what's going on in the classrooms and when that would be taking place. So all of that would be factored into the presentation on the 14th. That would be accompanied by the first reading of the curriculum before the board, before it would get adopted at a subsequent meeting after that. So the information that was presented, or the questions presented this evening, we would aim to have answered and included as part of the presentation on the 14th of June.
I'd like to address a couple things just quickly. I committed during a previous board meeting, I don't remember which off the top of my head, that when this curriculum is introduced to the board for first reading and introduced to the public, that I'll be reintroducing our opt-out policy. And I'm standing by that prior commitment to do so. We will look at that at our policy meeting on the 6th, and any changes will come up for the board at the 14th. There's a question as to why we're having conversations in private with the town and not in public, and it's simple. The town hasn't given us a final proposal on anything, so there's nothing for us to discuss publicly at this time. As much as we do appreciate you guys coming out every week, and it has been every week since last June when this started, we do hear you, we do listen, and we are taking, it is part of our internal deliberations, and pretty much every issue you've brought up has been reflected by at least one board member's position sitting here. When on the 25th, I believe,
Yes.
Facilities Committee is meeting with the town to discuss potentially what that final agreement might look like. When there's something for us to discuss as a board coming out of that, then there will be a full board discussion just as robust as we had these last two meetings with regards to moving our election. I don't foresee any formal board action before the end of the school year. Not willing to promise that, but I don't see anything, just looking at the agendas for our next two meetings, I don't see anything happening there.
Can I add to that
Mhm.
also? Okay. So yes, what Brendan is saying is correct, and also being part of the facilities committee with others who will meet on the 25th with the town. We have not seen anything else from them other than what you guys have, anything new. And I know we all have spoken to other board members that have questions that we're going to bring to them of concerns we have. We have all of yours, which thank you for always coming out, because it gives us a lot to bring to the town, to say things that we have questions about. And we are listening, and we are hearing, and we are going to, convey that to the town, just to let you know.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Well, on the public comments.
Oh, I just wanted to add, I don't know if the parent is still here, but when we get updates, like Dr. Gonzalez said, about curriculums that are being clarified, they're also on the Department of Ed website. You can just Google New Jersey DOE broadcasts, and it has any clarifications that come through from the Department of Education. And that's happened a couple times this year. It's happened with the health curriculum, the phys ed curriculum, and it's just happened with the civics curriculum. So just if the public wants another source, they can always check that out too.
All right. With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mike. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned.